Hi, everybody! I'm Charmy Bee, and today I will be reading you all Chapter 18 of The Walking Dead Hope, the Walking Dead fanfiction written by Goofy Gomez from Wattpad. What's a Wattpad? I think it's a website for people to write their fanfictions on. Oh, okay. Thanks, Bailey. No problem, Charmy. Now, Goofy Gomez, thanks a lot for giving us permission to read your story, man. You're awesome! Now, this is apparently a love story between Louis and Clementine. While I may not be a huge fan of love stories, I think I might as well give this story a read just to give it a benefit of a doubt. But anyway, without wasting any more time, let's get reading! Will I be able to hear the baby? AJ walked a few paces behind Louis and Clementine as they made their way through Richmond. The afternoon sun shone over the city in a bright yellow view, the late summer warmth enveloping them. AJ unzipped his jacket, a small beard of sweat running down his forehead. He checked his watch and nodded. 6 o'clock. Upon seeing his new garment, Louis had taught him to read time. Something AJ had never had to do. It had turned out, Javi said, that the inscription read, "Prove you were here, leave your mark." It was a Garcia family heirloom, passed down from father to son at the age of 11. Since Javi never had kids, he decided AJ should have it. Louis, whose arm was around Clem's waist, turned his head and smiled back at the boy. "Of course," he said, giving AJ the thumbs up. "She can hear you too, by the way." "She can?" Louis nodded. "I talk to her all the time," he assured him. "You should too, so she can recognize your voice when she gets here." "And when is she getting here?" AJ inquired. The trio turned a corner at the end of the street, and AJ spotted the large white tent that served as a makeshift hospital for the town. Since Clem was nearing 6 months in her pregnancy, Eleanor had urged her to go by her office one more time to check the baby's vital signs. "Just a few more moments," Clem reminded AJ. They stepped through the door of the tent, sidestepping a nurse that rushed past them. AJ followed the couple through the aisle, his eyes darting to every patient and doctor in the premise. "Well, it's taken a really long time," he complained, rolling his eyes. He heard Clem and Louis chuckle from ahead. They arrived at a green door at the end of the hall, a red cross painted on it. Louis knocked twice, stepping back as he opened, and Eleanor poked her head through that gap. "Oh, great, you made it," she said with a smile. "I'm just finishing up with the patient, so I'll see you in a moment." "Thanks," Louis replied giddily, leaning against the wall beside the door. He looked Clem up and down, his eyes landing on her swollen stomach. "I still can't believe you're actually having my baby." "Neither could Violet when I told her," Clem teased, raising an eyebrow at him. I believe her exact words were, "Good luck with that." He rolled his eyes. "Always such a ray of sunshine, that woman," Louis said. He leaned in, cupping her belly in his hands. "I just can't wait for us to start this chapter of our lives. An awesome ninja family," he commented with a grin. "Just the 4 of us living happily ever after." "4?" AJ exclaimed, his eyes tightly knitted. "Who's the 4th? Is there going to be another baby?" he inquired, looking up at Clem. She chuckled and shook her head, ruffling his hair. "You're the 4th one, goofball," she assured him. "Oh," he muttered, looking down at his hands. I'd like that." The conversation was cut short as Eleanor's door was swung open and a middle-aged man stepped out, nodding at the couple. As he left, the doctor ushered the trio inside, closing the door behind them. Clem took a seat at the gurney, AJ and Louis at her side. Eleanor repeated the process she'd done the first time, applying the gel on a weird stick. Clementine lifted her shirt and flinched when the cold surface touched her skin. A soft thumping sound startled AJ, and he directed his attention to the small screen on the machine the stick was hooked up to. He inspected and was interesting, never had seen one. The black screen turned gray for a second before an airway of array of white lines appeared over the black background. As Clem gasped at the sight, AJ leaned in, marveling at the image of the screen. The baby's head was visible on the right, a small body attached to it. There were numbers he didn't know the meaning to on the side of the screen, and the thumping was ever present. "What's that sound?" he asked Eleanor, never taking his eyes off the baby. "That's the baby's heartbeat," she informed him, checking the screen. 114 beats per hour. It's growing amazingly. "Wasn't it 165 the last time we came?" Louis asked with raised eyebrows. "Is she getting weaker?" Eleanor chuckled a little, shaking her head. "Around this time in the pregnancy, the fetal resting heart rate drops a bit. This is perfectly normal," he assured the father-to-be. He sighed in relief, squeezing Clem's hand softly. AJ was still gazing at the screen when it buzzed and turned black. Eleanor assured him she was turning off the machine as a whirling sound erupted from it, startling the boy. A small paper, much like the one Louis had shown him a few months back, slid out of the slot and Eleanor handed to AJ. He examined it, cocking his head to the side. The previous wavy lines now constituted the silhouette of a small bundle, its head on the right side of its body resting comfortably on the bottom. He noticed the thumping that almost stopped. He handed Louis the picture with a smile on his face. "Now I can see it," he exclaimed, bouncing on the balls of his feet. "That's great, little man," Louis said, giving AJ a high five. Eleanor stepped up, holding a small clipboard in her hand. She cleared her throat, gaining the attention of the trio. "AJ, would you mind giving us a minute? I need to ask Clem and Louis some standard questions." Taken aback, AJ obliged and walked through the room toward the chair on the far side of the wall. He took a seat, his feet dangling off the edge of it. He looked at the couple for a moment. Both of them focused on Eleanor's questioning. Their eyes were intertwined through the whole thing. He smiled at the sight, his eyes drifting down to his feet. At some point, Eleanor took her leave, giving the couple some space. AJ waited for them to beckon him over, but no invitation was forthcoming. They were examining the new baby photo again, smiles of pure joy on both of their faces. Maybe they wanted some time. He was absent-mindedly picking up at a chip paint that coated the zip of his jacket, part of which resided in his lap. Whilst his gaze drifted across the room at the couple, Clementine was lying down on the gurney at the far side, while Louis sat on the edge holding her hand and whispering softly in her ear. Having a conversation he wasn't a part of. Her face wrinkled up as she laughed at whatever joke he told, banishing the nerves and fears she had about their unborn child. The young boy couldn't help but smile, having to see that Clementine's spirit had been raised. He was so used to seeing her tired and upset. It had become the norm. He watched as she ran her hands across her stomach. AJ traced the baby bumps in his eyes, his face turning dull and his smile faltering. Not long now," he often heard her say. It's all she ever talked to him about, the baby. He'd been lying if he said he wasn't excited about the new addition to their family, but what was going to happen when it came? He already felt pushed aside. Even now, he was forgotten. Oh, man. Would this baby take his place? Did Clem think it would be better than him? It was going to be born into this world just like him. Why should they be any different? AJ had become so lost in his own head that he didn't hear Louis beckoning him over until the third time the man uttered his name. "AJ, come here." The young boy pushed himself off the chair and crossed the office with curiosity. "The baby is kicking. You want to feel it?" Louis asked, his dark brown eyes almost swimming with tears of joy and body bursting with unbridled excitement. Clementine felt out her hand, offering to help AJ find just the right spot, feeling slightly pressured, but also a mixture of curiosity and wonder. He lifted his arm, edging closer, However, when the young boy was in touching distance of Clementine, he stopped and timidly backed away, distancing himself from them both. "No, thanks. Louis should go first. I'll do it some other time," he murmured, retreating out the door before either of the adults could protest, leaving them confused. He absently walked the hall, not lost in thought. And this is where I will stop for part 1. Stay tuned for part 2 of Charmy Bee reads Chapter 18 of The Walking Dead Hope.